Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Boxer, the Technical Trader. It's Tuesday night, March the 27th, 2012, and these are the charts of the day. Today I'm going to go over some longs and some shorts. The market weekend at the end of the day today, we want to be prepared. But first, a review of the longs. PSDV took off in the afternoon. Now, notice yesterday, after this, by the way, after this big long line, at the end of February, this thing exploded. It went from about $1.25 up to $2.85 in a flash. Then had a long declining, well, 4-week declining little channel here, or wedge. That popped yesterday, and a breakaway gap and a follow through today, which took it nearly back up to test the 285 area, which I think maybe tested tomorrow. It did get to 260 today, backed off to 250, but closed very nicely. Now, when we look at the overall chart, at a level of which there may be some resistance, is up around the 372 area, and if it does get through 285, that would be my next target. EPAM, which you can see is a fairly new issue. After opening and coiling for about 3 weeks, it popped and then started to stair step its way higher, but today accelerated, exploding 413 or 4.3%. We traded that today. Did very well and closed within pennies of the high. Now, I'm not sure where this can go, but looking up at the follow-through move, I could see 23.5 or something of that nature short term. XOMA, where you can see the big wedge that formed on it in January and February, that was exploded with this one breakaway day right here. Little bit of hesitation and resistance, a move to secondary resistance near these peaks, and then explosive move today up 15% on 4.25 million, second biggest volume in the last year or so. So a good upside move. That's my next target, not far from where we were at the high today. And then there's the gap over about 350, which would be my next minor target. YELP had a big day today, up 305 on 3.1 million. It's a fairly new issue. You can see broke out of this little wedge it was in after the IPO. Did a little breakout yesterday, and then new post-IPO highs today with a thrust of 305, with, as I said, 3.1 million. That's terrific, and I would look for a follow-through to get us up to near the 30 area. Dang. Well, let's take a look at the long downtrend that took this from the 30s down to the mid-single digits. Formed a wedge, exploded out of it, sharp run up, a little bit of a falling channel, held to 50, held moving averages, price resistance, price support, lateral and trendline support, and then popped up only to back off one more time. Now today, you can see, let's clear this up here. Today the stock popped again out of this little wedge and ran up to as high as 840, closing at 817, up 71 cents or 9.5%, but 8.8 million traded. Significant because that's the biggest volume all year, going back several months, 6 months, 8 months. Let's see, yeah, the biggest volume since July of last year. More importantly, it's approaching key overhead resistance around 8.5, hitting 840 today. And if it does get through 8.5, stepping back, we can see this rising channel here could support not only move to test the 10.25 area, which would be short-term target, but the secondary target is up around 13.5. ARLP on a whopping 55.9 million shares today, on top of yesterday's 58.6 million. Traded 115 million shares in 2 days after the breakaway gap. So an important move. As you can see the long, beautiful base pattern. The gap may be filled if it wasn't today. Let's see. This gap here was up to 3 3/4, and today's high was 347. So not quite, but nearly filled the gap. Closed at 326, up 8.3%. And if it does follow through, I wouldn't be shocked to see it get up towards 4 3/4, my next target. Nectar. Well, the reason I showed you this is because of the nice stair-step channel up. We've had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way move, a consolidation, and then a breakout again. As you can see, this flag here, our coil, was broken yesterday and it followed through today. My target now is about 9, 9.25 short term. Swing trade ARLP. After it popped here, we gave you a buy on the breakout around 19.25 or half, wherever it was, and now stock is up to 23. I had a target up near the top of this channel, up around 26.7, I believe. I'll have to double check that, but it still looks terrific. Alliant, stair stepping its way higher. I wanted to point out that it did hit top of its channel on my target around 13.5 today. So, you know, it may very well pull back and consolidate again if it's going to continue, but it may very well accelerate through that and get up to 15, 16. Semiconductor stock MX, which I've been following since it broke out here, had a sharp run up, little flag, popped again and coiled for about a month and a half. The last few days it's been moving steadily higher as volume increases. And notice yesterday it popped through, today it extended, got up to 12.38, closed at 12.33 up 49 cents or 4% on the best volume in months. Looks like the top of this channel may be tested. I'm going to set your target around 14, 14 and a quarter. TA are another one of our swing trades, which we bought on the pop here. Pull back to check well, this is support here, right at the rising 10-day moving average as well as lateral price support. Up through resistance today, gaining a quarter of 3.8%. Volume was pretty good, but I would suspect now we can make a move that runs this up into the $8 range. TriQuint Semiconductor put a buy it on us today after this line was broken. Now the volume was the best in about 6 weeks, but I'm not seeing as the technicals I want to see after re-examining this today at the end of the day. I'm okay with this head and shoulders pattern if it continues here, and I wouldn't be shocked to see it up to near the $8 range. That's my short-term target, 8 and a quarter. TSPT, want to point this out. The little wedge that was formed broke out today. It didn't close great, but it was up 31 cents or 3%. The volume could have been better, and maybe it'll extend, particularly if it runs up and through this little double top area around 10.40.50. Gets through that, we may see an explosive move that takes us up to 11.75, 12. QLIK, another stock today that broke out. You can see the long-term basing pattern, the breakout of the down channel here, the run up and the pullback retest. Then the run up again here and here and here, and then unable to get through. It then formed a wedge. And in the last 2 sessions, broke out of that wedge and through key resistance. At this point, I'm looking for a move to test the 35.5 area, short term. Up near there. And once we get through that, we can see this move up into the low 40s, at least 40, every secondary target. And lastly is LF on the long side today. One of our swing trades is working well as we bought it here in the breakout. It consolidated for 3 or 4 weeks, ran up and is moving higher. Now we're looking for 10, 10.5, maybe as high as 11 on LF short term. Let's turn our attention to the box of shorts. I got about 10 of them to talk about. And we're going to have to change this. Hang on a second, folks. Sorry about that. Didn't change the scaling on it. Okay, you can see that this top information was cracked with a wedge, cracked with a flag, cracked with a snapback failure, another crack. So the downtrend's in force. But more importantly, if you look at today's action, it ran up and reversed and went from 67.20 to 64.75 and closed pennies off the low, down 64%. 64 cents or only 1%, but the volume increased for the heaviest in 4 days, and we may very well be getting a down move that takes us down to test 59 next. WebMD, well, big wedge after small flag after little coil, all bearish. This stock is extremely narrow, and if they break this to the downside, you may see a quick drop like this, or at least like that, taking us down into the low 20s. True Religion's been in big trouble since the bad earnings report gapped it lower. This is a bearish falling flag, and I think we may see this crack 24.85 or so and run into the low 20s. ATK, which took out this big wedge here with that thrust, a couple of days snapback and then lower lows. We took out the September spike lows today and closed down 60 cents, but more importantly, a close below this line for the first time. Could lead down to 46.7 zone quickly. ARLP, after the long rising channel, was broken here, and then a little flag formed here. I'm looking for a move down to 58. APEI, I think some of the educational stocks may be in trouble. We'll just have to see what happens in the next few weeks. But with the topping pattern here, a thrust to the downside that broke that support, and then a flag formed. Today, dropping 87 cents. Vine picked up slightly to the downside, notice, and that's not a good sign. Well, I'm looking for at least to move down to 34.5 zone. HP rolled over the last couple of days. We broke, and we're flagging in here. I'm looking for more downside. A test of 49.5, 50 should be forthcoming. NPK in a big bearish wedge here. Not that big, but it's a bearish little coil or wedge. If this breaks, we can see a move down to the bottom of this channel, which could take us under 70. First Solar continues to look terrible, and this little consolidation, if it breaks, could lead to a move to the bottom of this channel down around 20. And lastly, today is Decker's Outdoor, which we've been negative on since up here. Well, it's already dropped from 90 to 65. It looks like this is not done yet. As this falling little flag here cracks to the downside, we may see it not only a break of a test of this line, but perhaps the bottom of the short-term channel brings it down to the mid-50s. This looks quite ugly. Look at this massive hidden shoulders top here. Well, stay tuned on that one. That's it for this evening. Some long and short ideas for you. We'll talk to you tomorrow.